From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
I'd like to welcome you to the Library of Congress this afternoon on auspicious day in March. I'm Helena Zinkham, Director for Collections and also Chief of the Prints and Photographs Division. So you know I have a very special stake in the proceedings today, cheering Martha on. The Prints and Photographs Division is home to a rapidly growing body of work by women artists. We are very grateful to the Carolyn and Irwin Swan Foundation, which has supported these new acquisitions and is also sponsoring today's event. Our program features a conversation with 3 acclaimed women artists. How about that? Have you been called acclaimed before? I'm hoping. We are celebrating both Women's History Month and the brand new publication called Drawn to Purpose by my colleague Martha Kennedy. She'll be your moderator today, a curator of popular and applied graphic arts. This opening slideshow loop gave you a glimpse of the dazzling original art created by women, now represented, all of it, in the library's collections, from vibrant drawings by our panelists back into the 1800s. Often we think women whose names you might never have heard of, but well worth becoming acquainted. Because the range of topics that women address and explore has broadened greatly across this last 150 years. A big point in the book, to watch how women and art have been able to interact and be published, be known to the world far more publicly. The fact that work by so many women has been overlooked and under-recognized was the very thing that motivated Martha Kennedy to dive deep into research, starting almost a decade ago. Okay. She wrote the book, Drawn to Purpose, with terrific support from our publishing office, well represented today, and also prepared the companion exhibition currently on view in the Graphic Arts Gallery. And I'll take a moment to mention that we hope you'll have time to visit the show after the panel presentations, and it is conveniently located next to the gift shop, where you'll all be able to acquire your very own copy of Drawn to Purpose, signed by the author. Martha has, of course, told me what a special privilege it has been to undertake these dual projects that celebrate women's remarkable contributions to both art forms, illustration and cartoon. She wants to thank her many colleagues across the library who have supported and helped her complete this work. It is now my honor to introduce our speakers. Barbara Brandon-Croft, would you mind just standing briefly so we can all... Barbara created the groundbreaking comic Where I'm Coming From, which ran for 15 years from 1990 to 2005. The first African-American woman to have a nationally syndicated strip, she introduced an engaging cast of Black women whose conversations brought topical themes into the comics, historical and contemporary race and gender issues. She has also published 2 very well-received comic collections and continues using her artistic talent by illustrating publications that promote activism. These include a guide for Black teen girls and a recent anthology called APB, Artists Against Police Brutality. Whitney Sherman. We're moving alphabetically. Whitney is director of the MFA Illustration Practice Program at the Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore, Maryland. As a multifaceted, award-winning illustrator, she has created artwork for national magazines, corporations, and book projects, some featuring narrative content, others focused on aspects of illustration itself. Whitney has recently co-authored and edited a monumental new book. Listen to this topic: History of Illustration. Sweeping, covering the range of image making and print history from around the world, spanning ancient to modern times. We owe you a debt there, I think. Jillian Tamaki. In a short span of years, Jillian has produced an impressive volume and variety of work that includes 2 award-winning graphic novels in collaboration with her cousin Mariko, a short story collection, an award-winning webcomic, editorial illustrations for newspapers and magazines, book covers, and now her first children's book, They Say Blue. Her weekly drawings of authors that grace the New York Times Book Review have included a wonderful portrait of our Librarian of Congress, Dr. Carla Hayden, so we're particularly grateful in that area too. Unfortunately, Dr. Hayden is not able to join us today. She sends her regrets. This is one of her favorite topics, books and illustrations, but she's been called away. Martha Kennedy is stepping in as our panel moderator, and Dr. Hayden's message to the foreword of the book is what I've been asked to read to you to represent her. Dr. Hayden recalled being a kid who read everything, and personally, I believe her. She pored over the illustrations just as much as the accompanying words. That's the key part. She wrote in the foreword, "Images make reading more meaningful and more memorable." I think at this point I'm going to say, take it away, Martha. Please come up to the stage, and we'll help you get to the Graphic Arts Gallery at the end of the program. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here. Can you hear me? Sort of? Okay. Okay, great. Thanks so much. And thank you, Helena, for your opening remarks and introduction. I would also like to take this moment to express my thanks to my colleagues across the library who have helped and supported me in completing these wonderful projects. I feel so privileged to have worked on the book and the exhibit, Drawn to Purpose. Turning to our panelists, it is an honor and a privilege for me to moderate today's conversation. We look forward to hearing your perspectives and your insights into the arts of illustration and cartooning as wonderful creators in these art forms. I would like to begin by asking each of you, what is it like to be an illustrator and or a cartoonist today? Do you think the playing field is equal? Who would like to start?
That's absolutely equal. With the new administration, we have everything is solid. Women are here. No, we're not. We're not equal. We won't be. And it's been a long time when we really aren't. I mean, I think about how women are born, we come here, and only to find out as we get older that we're considered lesser. You know, our points of view aren't, we start to understand that our points of view aren't taken as seriously, or...
Can you hear, okay.
Holy moly.
Okay, great, thanks.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, sorry. My point is that women are born and we come here and then we start to find out that we are considered lesser and we're not taken as seriously, and the older you get, the more you find it out. I mean, it's, as a kid, you know, the boys are like suddenly like, no, we can play football, but you can be the cheerleader. Like, what? You know, you were ready to play. And you find out that if you want to be heard, if you want your point of view to be heard, you have to make yourself heard and you have to be loud. and nobody likes a loud woman, it seems. So there's a lot of, you come to that realization, and honestly, being a black woman, you're less than lesser, you're like least, and you're not only you're not heard, or you could be ignored, you could be a suspect, there's so many things that happen. So know that playing field isn't level. I don't know when that's going to happen.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Am I gonna? Okay, I'll just hold this in case.
Okay.
So illustration does not, in cartooning, does not exist in a vacuum. It's a part of society, and to sort of answer like why women are devalued in society is like a whole other round table, I think. But yeah, I feel like it's very complicated. Illustration for me and the way that I've conducted my career has been very linked to the industry of illustration and mainstream publishing and the publishing industry, and that can be really complicated. Especially when I'm working in, I've worked in comics, which is famously a very male-dominated little niche of drawing, but then now I'm in doing stuff with picture books, where that industry is, 90% female in terms of the creators and the gatekeepers and the booksellers and the librarians and the parents that are buying the books and all this stuff. Yet still those issues persist with who gets the awards and who gets the acclaim and money and all these things that trickle down. So it's like, it's even more complicated than it seems on the face sometimes. But yeah, I think identity has become a very big part of publishing and culture at large now, and so it's an evolving thing that I feel strange. I actually don't do a lot of women in comics and women in blankety blank panels, because I can feel that it's othering, It can feel like we talk about, we're okay with this stuff as this sort of like separate thing, or it's safe to analyze it within this like closed, sealed off context. But I always want to, until the day comes where I'm looking forward to when it becomes more integrated and we don't have to have special days, and that would seem weird because we're integrated on a more daily level. So.
Yeah, thank you. Very thoughtful.
Pass the baton.
Yes.
I don't know if you can hear neither one. A lot of what I wanted to say was already been said, but I wanted to really start, if I'd been the first person to speak, I would have said, I was so glad that you didn't say, is there a level playing field for women illustrators? Because I think when we continue to label us as women illustrators rather than illustrators, we already create a division there. We create a separate category that is problematic, and it becomes something hard. It's not that we're not women, but we have to crawl out of this hole that has been developed by ostracizing that, by labeling it that way.
It's like an asterisk to
it
the thing.
is, yeah. And it's what's really curious too is, as an educator, I've been teaching part-time and full-time for almost 30 years, and the majority of my students are women. So when I look out into the world, I see more men that are out there, that are nameable, that become the names in the industry, and I think a lot of it does come out of not having people that are women that are illustrators, but by having art directors or judges on panels or whatever. Those are the arbiters of who's going to become a name, or whose work is going to be seen in a publication or in an annual. And so because of that, I think that has to shift a little bit. I think there is more of an awareness of that now. I think people are being sensitive. Maybe we have to go through this period of identifying women and talking about women for, I mean, they're only, it's like half the planet, right? I don't know why it's been so invisible, but maybe we have to go through this little phase in order for us to not have to do it this way.
Yeah. No, these are just very thoughtful answers. Would you be willing to say that there's been some progress in the last 20 years at all in certain areas? for women?
I would, yeah. I would say that there is some progress. We can look at things like the director of the Society of Illustrators is a woman. The majority of the presidents of the Illustration Conference, which is the only conference that's national, that's for illustration, the majority of the presidents have been women. So there are people that are in leadership roles that in these things that are, it's contemporary, it's in the last 15, maybe even 10 years that it's different. Yeah. So there are role models for women that are coming up that can look at that and say, well, that's possible to do.
Yeah, yeah, there are a few. And we now have
other president to be a woman.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. We have the art editor of The New Yorker is a woman, and the new cartoon editor. So there are a few encouraging signs too.
I mean, in comics, and I mean, I mostly travel in independent, indie, alt comics or whatever, but when I started 15 years ago, it was just like so different in terms of, well, now it's like the market for like YA comics and kid comics and stuff like that has just like burst forward, and I think all the most like prominent people doing that are like Raina Telgemeier is like the apex of all of that, and her work is like loved by girls and boys, and like that's extremely encouraging. Of course, then you have other issues with how identity becomes this marketable thing, and all these other things, but that has changed so much since I've started.
Yeah, and that's one area. And yet you look at the comics pages in newspapers, and it's better online. But
definitely better online.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, you know, so many years ago, to be the first Black woman in the mainstream press, in the newspapers, that was big. But also by me being the first Black woman in the mainstream press, in newspapers, I was the only one. And I was kind of, you think you're breaking the door down so more can come in, but you're really like clogging the door, you know, because you're there. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna hold on to this as long as I can. And then, but I've been, you know, I haven't done it since 2005. Yeah. And there has not been somebody who has recognized a Black woman cartoonist for the newspaper. But the newspapers are dying, clearly. But it's true. It's been, so it's hard for me in my specific area of doing this to see progress.
Yeah.
But that's a downer, sorry.
Yeah.
But I think that as a result, like web comics have been so embraced by women because there's like, you just can skip to like directly to your audience, right?
Yes.
And I think that that's now, if you go to the SPX, the Small Press Expo here outside of, in Bethesda, Maryland, it's like, you see that gradually change as like more women then, they build their audience by themselves, and clearly there is this like appetite for it, and for racialized women as well, and so you don't have to necessarily go through these mainstream channels to like get your work out, and then there's this like reverse thing of like now the mainstream wants that thing. It's like this turnaround.
It's topsy-turvy.
Yeah, no, that's great. Good points. I mean, this leads me into another question. Could you comment on the impact of social media on work in both fields? You know, what do you think about that?
I think about
positive and negative.
Me?
Yeah, please, all three of you. Just love to hear what you
know, social media is a strange bird, you know, and I am older, so it's even stranger to me because it's new. So it's not all good, but there are some good points. It does help create communities that are supportive. You know, I can every once in a while feel compelled to do a strip, and I can put it on my Facebook page. I actually have one, and and I can get such a positive response. So like, do it again, Barbara. You know, we need to hear these girls. You know, let's hear these Black women talk. And it's just very encouraging. So while it is a weird kind of thing, it does create certain communities, and it does help bring like-minded people together to make points. Even if we're just patting each other on our backs, you know, it kind of feels good, because that's what it ends up being. It's a community. Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I was going to say that most illustrators, I can't speak for cartoonists, but I imagine it's very similar. We work by ourselves. And so unless you're going out and you're teaching and you're getting yourself exposed to people in a work situation, the majority of your time you're spending by yourself. And so social media adds a layer of connectivity that's really helpful. You get to see what other people are doing or tell them what you think about what they're doing. The other side of it, too, is that there have been quite a few places where women have gotten beaten up in social media, and other places where they can find refuge. There's some private Facebook groups where women can talk about what's happening with them. They can talk about whether they think they're getting paid less or whether somebody's bullying them or other topics that are distressful, and you need to find support somewhere. Yeah, so it's like everything. It's got two sides.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think that social media has brought a lot of different kinds of people to illustration and comics, and that is very, very much needed because it is, I feel like when I started, it was very, very predominantly white and male and straight, and like now I feel like it's really expanded. And I used to, when I started, I really linked illustration with this commercial aspect. It's like you're not an artist, you're working with a client, you know what I mean? And like you're creating a product, and now I feel like I can't say that anymore. I feel like it's become this much more nebulous thing that actually, because it's brought in all these different people, really questions some of the power structures around it and like how it moves, and they're not necessarily, they think about it in a really, really different way, and it's, but it can be really scary, some of this stuff with the, being a woman on the internet is like just kind of a scary place sometimes. But I can't imagine my career without it. I graduated in 2003, like right at the start of it, and I just don't think I would be where I am without continually sharing online. And you're never supposed to say that like audience reaction affects your work or whatever, but like I feel totally, because I know a lot of my audience is women, like that's where you can connect, especially with young women, teenagers, right? That. That's where they are. So I found it like a very, I can't separate the two. I wouldn't want to either. You know, it's good and the bad.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a little bit of a democracy too in that someone can have connection to the internet and look at things through social media and not have to have the money to buy a book. So they might like Jillian's work or Barbara's work, and they might not be able to afford that book or get that book, but they can appreciate their work through social media that they're on anyway.
But on the flip side of that, we haven't figured out how to get paid either. You know, like you don't know how to make money from putting your stuff out there. You know, it's like it's not a clear road.
And illustration has, because of this, like become so incredibly popular. Like when I started, I feel like it was for like nerds that wanted to like airbrush like shiny metal and stuff, but it's like completely like evolved to this other, I can't even remember what I was going to say, but I got like distracted by like talking about nerds for a second. About not getting paid. Right. So thank you from the audience. So not getting paid, you end up, there's this like economy of like likes and stuff like that, and I think that one thing I've heard about, this is sort of directly to women on the internet, I kind of feel like sometimes you need to present an image, right? And that like really values the young woman, the woman that is willing to sort of put her appearance up online, you know? And I always was very, when I was starting out, I really felt like I tried very hard to keep all my images, like all images of myself off the internet, because I didn't want my image linked to my work. I wanted my work just to stand on its own and stuff like that. And I have heard that increasingly some young women feel that's not a possibility. You need an attached image to it, and an attached like persona and personality and like brand. And like I feel like that's really complicated, you know?
Yeah, no. That's fascinating.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Turning to a slightly different but related topic. Could you share observations or insights about women in these fields from your experiences as teachers or being on panels, or have you benefited from teaching and doing, because I know it, 2 of you have taught. I know that, yeah.
I've been teaching for a long time, and when I first started, well, I'll go back just a little bit more and give you a little bit of a story. When I graduated college, somebody said to me, "Oh, do you think, do you want to teach?" And I was like, "There's no way I want to teach. Why would I want to teach? I want to do stuff." And I think at that time too, it was you wanted to get out there. You wanted to build your portfolio. You wanted to get more clients. That's what you wanted to do if you wanted to be an illustrator. And so that's what I wanted to do too. But over time, what I found was that it gets a little lonely sometimes, so you have to find diversion, get away from the 4 walls that you're in. And I think a lot of women do have studios in their homes for whatever reason. I did because I was a parent, and I had a small child, and I wanted to be able to do that and do my work. But I also wanted to kind of connect out with other people. And so someone I knew asked me to do a workshop on and this is when I was actually doing graphic design as well, to do comps, show students how to make comprehensives, these are put together. This is pre-digital world for anybody that's under 30. Pre-digital world, where if you were going to do a design, you put it together, you mocked it up to show your client what it was going to look like. And so I did this workshop, and I was like really charged up over this idea that I had stuff that I had done, and I could put that together in an organized way, and I could transmit it to a bunch of students that were eager to get that information. And it made me feel like I had this other value beyond what I was generating. So I'm building my career, right? But I'm also able to push back some things, push back some value to others. And so that kind of got me hooked on doing it. And then over the years, I was picking up part-time work just as a dimension to my studio work. And then in 2000, I was recruited to lead the undergraduate department at MICA in illustration. And I wasn't sure. I had a really vital studio business. It was something that I really had to think long and hard about, but I felt like it was a challenge. It was a good challenge for me. So I did that for 10 years and started a master's program, and we're in year 8. I think it's successful. So what do I get out of teaching is I get to get out of my house and my studio. But beyond that, it's that same exchange. It's that same bringing value to other people's lives, sharing the things that I do and that I love, that are meaningful to me, and to raise up people that are interested in learning. I think there's nothing better than this relationship of you giving something to someone else, them valuing it, and then doing something with that. And that, to me, that's what teaching is.
Yeah. Plus, you get to see what's cool,
yeah, right.
coming up, and then, so it was interesting. I don't teach right now, but I taught for a long time in New York, and you'd see stuff percolating in them, and then it would be in the broader culture, 2 years later or something like that, because they're cool art students. But yeah, I don't teach now. All the same, I mean, it's incredibly gratifying to see them grow as people. It's such a formative time, right? They're like little babies when they start, and then by the end they're like adults, and it's really a privilege to help somebody on that. I did feel like in the end it can get tricky because especially New York art schools are very, very expensive, and then you're into this realm of student loans, and it becomes this very incredibly rarefied experience. So we haven't really talked about intersectionality a lot in this discussion, but that becomes a part of it too, with accessibility. And that was that's a changing thing that like the process that, or the time that I was teaching, I saw more and more of that stratification.
That's a very good point. Yeah, that's great.
I did, I was able to do some workshops.
Workshops,
yes.
great.
So
Good.
when you said that, I was like, I did do that.
Yes, yes.
And it was the Queen's Library. When I was doing the strip, the Queen's Library I was very popular in February and March. I would get calls, and we've got a black cartoonist coming in, we've got a woman cartoonist coming in, and all the time it would be young kids that would come. I shouldn't say that, because sometimes there were older people, retired people who wanted to sit among the 8-year-olds, and because they also wanted to have this fun little cartooning class, and it was really basic, how you can make faces out of shapes, and really, really basic. And then I would give them all like a line, just a little sentence, and have them create a strip to go along with it, which was really, they came up with some really crazy, incredible things, these little kids. So I think what I got from it was also being able to encourage these little ones, and also you recognize that you can learn from everybody. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be the older gentleman who is a little embarrassed to be sitting there with all these kids, who makes a comment about, I think, I'm like, that's a good point. It's like you really can learn from everyone. So I think that's what I get out of it. That's what I got out of it.
That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Here's another sort of general question. How or why does surveying work by women illustrators and cartoonists matter? Do you think a sense of shared history in these fields can help motivate and inspire established and rising artists, especially women?
I'm going to start talking again. That's
okay.
Because I thought about these questions, and I thought that was particularly a good one because that's kind of what we do. It's like as illustrators, as cartoonists, as artists, as singers, and whatever we do, we are like kind of, you observe what's going on, you interpret it, and then you record it, and I got that from my dad. It's like, that's a good point, Dad, and that's what we do. So we're, in a certain sense, we are recording history. So for folks down the line who come back and look at what we've done, because all of our work is informed by our experiences. And so you have a way of putting down what was happening during this time. And I mean, I was fortunate enough to have my first book, have Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis do the foreword for my first book. And one of the things they mentioned was that they felt that my strip should go in a time capsule, and that years from now, folks can open it up and get a real understanding of what the experience of being a black woman in America was. And I was like, wow, that's heavy. And it's it's really kind of, it's good and it's true. So it's being able to take a look at what's going on and being able to understand that everybody who expresses themselves are from their experiences, and it's very important to keep track of it and get a chance to look at it and understand, because that will inform later generations with their lives, from what our experiences have been.
Yeah, I think like history is not like what happens, like how it's told, or something like that. Like, I'm sure there's a more elegant way of saying that, but I mean, there's a reason why the canon is the way it is, and it looks the way it is, and that's like conscious and unconscious as to how it's shaped. So I think like you need to like aggressively reshape it. As much as I can't wait for the day that like it feels like embedded and ingrained in it, like in a more natural way. I think you have to actually put effort into it and like and be more intentional, and aware. And I think people are demanding that, and people see that now, and they're like, the consciousness has like rose so much in the last like 5 years or something like
I was
that.
gonna say 5 days even.
Yeah, and like even just like the younger students and younger creators are so much, they see it as a whole now, and they see the way like it all works in a way that I was like completely naive to when I started. So there's a lot more questioning of those structures, and I think it's very powerful. Like I have to remember being younger and like looking around myself and seeing like I'm mixed but identify as like Asian American, and it's like you're looking around constantly, you know what I mean? And like you're looking for evidence of yourself and yourself reflected back, and it's very, very powerful when you find that, especially when you're a young person. So I'm aware of that too, that like sometimes that more intentional effort, if that's what it results in, then so be it, you know.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, I think there's been a great turnaround in more recent years, because if you look at what women were doing at the beginning of the 20th century, the type of work they were doing, they were stratified into women's subjects, whatever those might be, and that they were reflecting out the magazines, when magazines were emerging. Magazines that were coming out for women were reflecting a kind of life that was supposed to happen, this ideal life of what a woman should be doing and how she should be a homemaker, a good mother, and whatnot. And I think those reflections, those images that are made, are reflecting out to not just women, but to the world, what is expected, and if that's changing, if that's different, and it's reflecting out these different ideas and different ways of living and thinking and being, that can change society.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, thank you. This really, I think, leads well into my next question, which is, women have made contributions to these art forms that men probably would not have. In fact, probably definitely would not have. Can you imagine a male counterpart creating some of the works that you and other female artists have made? And can you give a few examples? Just briefly, you know, describe or mention.
Marjane Satrapi, who wrote about her experience being in the Middle East, being a woman in the Middle East, I think would have been impossible for a man to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Because my strip was a collection of women, and that's all that was in the strip. It was women, and it was black women in particular. Can I imagine a man doing what I did? Nah. No. No. As a matter of fact, I was in a bunch of papers, but I wasn't in my New York area. I think the closest paper may have been the Baltimore Sun or maybe Philadelphia, something. But I lived in Brooklyn, and so nobody knew. I'd say I'm a cartoonist, but nobody knew what my strip was, so I would explain what it was. I have a strip, it's a weekly strip, it's all women, it's all talking heads, it's all black women. Oh man, you just take another opportunity to put the black man down. I'm like, wait. How can my point of view, just because it's a black woman, a woman speaking, means that it's anti-men? And likewise, how is being pro-black being anti-white? It's not. It's a perception. And if a guy were to see it, and I got letters say that they have a problem with a strip that I've done, my point to the guy would be, let's see, you probably have more of a problem with your mirror, because, and if you have trouble with her observations and what she has to say, then look into yourself, because it's her observations of your life. And if you see yourself and you're getting upset, that's not my issue, you know. But to see a man do specifically what I did, that couldn't happen. Yeah.
That's like part of the thing of also like you can't be a whole person. You need to be like woman or Asian woman or whatever, and like you're just supposed to like exist in that sort of static identity and not have like complex like feelings about stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess my work has always been sort of like even when I started, like, I know I got a lot of female topics, like, you get pigeonholed into, she's really great, like, that's her topic, is girls and women, and, like, anytime, I feel like for a while, like, if anything horrible happened to, like, a woman from these newspapers, like, some story where, like, something horrible to, like, a girl, it's like, call Jillian, like, she's really good with that kind of topic. So it's, like, it's interesting that you're glad that you can, like, present that really empathetic point of view, but then it's like you can get
so
pigeonholed.
much more.
Yeah,
So much more.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So.
And I think all of you show that in your work. I mean, you really, the range of subjects that you cover and issues, it's fantastic. And to me, that shows progress. Sorry. Did you, I'm sorry.
I don't think I ever got pigeonholed on women's topics per se, but I got pigeonholed in depressing topics like depression or divorce or, you know, murder. She's really good at that.
Yeah, it's like go to her. Yeah.
So, but it gave me an opportunity to put women in there, you know. They're more interesting to draw.
Yeah.
Women.
I think.
Yeah. I do.
Just to like speak one more thing on like the race thing too, like sometimes it can feel like when you're working in some of these spaces that the like publishers or the editors or whatever are white and you're a person of color, that like it can feel that we're okay like up to this boundary line of like your experience, and like as long as you don't cross that experience, then like we're all good and we love it and we love you, and then like but like don't push that.
Don't go too far.
Yeah.
And for me, and again, it was when newspapers were doing well when I started, and all of the editors who were going to be white men who were going to either pick up your strip or not. And I would get, we already have Kathy. We don't need where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
But similarly, my dad, 30 years before, had a strip, Luther. They say, we already have, you know, Weep House. We don't need Luther. And it's like, but you can have Heathcliff and Garfield. What? How is that? How is that? You can have cats, plural. But you got black representation, you got a woman represented, and that's all.
We've done our tick box. Yeah,
right. So we're in good standing. Yeah. So
That's great.
And that's not even counting how many dog strips there are.
Oh yeah. Exactly.
Okay. We are we set? Yeah. I think you've done a great job answering all these questions that I have, and I think it's time to open up
Exactly
questions
right.
to the audience.
We have one small reminder. We welcome your questions, so please join the conversation. But realize that if you do ask a question, you will automatically become part of the webcast, which we will place in YouTube and make as publicly available as possible.
Wow.
Because libraries are all about sharing information widely and widely. So, yes, we open it to the floor. Thank you. There are microphones on either side that'll come around.
Hi, my name's Megan. I'm a librarian here at the Library of Congress, particularly interested in making sure that the library collects materials by women and about women for the collection. So I'm just wondering if you have any, what librarians like me can do to make sure that your voices are represented, or that things that are important to you are represented moving forward, because I want to make sure that those gaps that we have previously don't exist anymore. So if you have any thoughts on that, I would like to hear that.
I am in concert with Megan on that. So
You approve that question?
That's great.
Could I answer that?
Please.
Sure. What would be really interesting is maybe for you to talk about what the collection does collect. Like, what is the collection? What is the Library of Congress interested in collecting just prints? Are you interested in, I mean, you and I, Martha, have talked about this difficulty of digital prints and how they aren't, they're original but not really original. The original is the digital file, and how do you maintain digital files? Do you keep a giclée print in there? I think one of the pieces you've got of mine is a digital print because it was made on a computer.
Yeah. No, that is definitely an area that we're working on right now. I would say we're in sort of a state of transition. We do have a webcomic archive that Megan has been very active in building, developing, but I guess...
What about zines? Sorry to interrupt.
What about zines? We do have zines. We do have some, yeah.
What's a zine? I don't know what that is.
Like a small photocopied, like a handmade little mini comic thing.
Just to add to that, through our Small Press Expo collection, we actually are working with some of the smaller self-published cartoonists and illustrators who are working now, but we are also working to build out an actual zine collection, which broadens the scope to not just comics and illustration, but more, literature and criticism and other things. So that's a work in progress as well.
I was going to say the same thing. I think that, like, even apart from digital print stuff, this stuff just lives on, so much stuff just lives online. That's like all where it lives, you know what I mean? Like, and so it's tough because you have this whole, for example, LGBTQ plus, like, a lot of that content is on Tumblr, right? And like, if Tumblr then decides to like shut down or whatever, or like not host that stuff anymore, that stuff just like totally gone. So I think like these digital collections, and I know that they do it with SBX too, but I think like, I read a little bit like what Rhizome does with like the new museum in New York, where they're like digital, they're like old GeoCities things. Like, I think that that's really where the grassroots of like comics is, and increasingly illustration as well. Like Instagram is just like this, that's where it's happening, you know what I mean? And I think that a lot of those people will not end up going on to be the famous, some of them will, but like some of them, most of them, the vast majority of them are not going to, but like that I think is like really the pulse of like where people are creating now. And it's that more accessible space than printed published work too. That's super fascinating.
All right, so a certain amount of web crawling and acquiring of digital files.
And
I mean, that's something that we're working on.
Yeah.
And, we've got beginnings going, good beginnings in web comics especially.
And talking to other illustrators. I mean, I know some black women, cartoonists and illustrators and, that perhaps, like just talking, I'll talk. But just talking to people who are in the field, they can hip you to somebody else that's also doing it. Yeah.
There are also, I would say, some artists working in these fields in kind of a hybrid way too, and collecting their work is not always straightforward. Political cartoonists, for example, a lot of them still do drawing, add color digitally, abandon that. We have a couple of editorial or political cartoonists in the audience here. And so, yeah, there's a lot still to do.
Even like now, especially like Illustrator, because like the way to, it's easier to make a book, it's easier to make a print a t-shirt and make a button or whatever, like all this stuff is just, it's this whole different way of being an illustrator now and like selling your stuff directly online. And so do you have to then collect objects, of all these like screen printed tote bags? Like maybe that's like this big part of illustration now.
Yeah, and on the other hand, though, it is nice to have high quality prints, archival prints that give you a sense of a sampling of a, up and coming or award-winning illustrator now, Other question, yeah.
This question is for Barbara.
Uh-oh.
Barbara, I really enjoyed your strip when it was being syndicated. And I just wonder, could you talk about why you gave it up?
Because I stopped getting paid. Basically, with a newspaper comic strip, the way it works is you newspapers pay the syndicate, and the syndicate gives you a portion of what gets paid. So you'll have a contract with a syndicate that will say, if you go below a certain number of papers, you can say, I'm done, or we can say, we're done. And to Universal Press's credit, they kept me on a long time. When they could have dropped me, I think they felt a certain kind of, they needed me. I mean, so they could say, we have the black woman, and that's really good, because they really needed to be able to say that. And so, but as newspapers started declining, and when I first started in, the early 90s, 90, the Universal Press sent out a letter to all their creators and said, newspapers are on the decline. And so not only, it's the same strip that goes out to every newspaper, but if the circulation is larger for a newspaper, you get paid more. So when circulations go down and newspapers start dropping off, then paychecks get smaller. And then they think, oh, it's not worth it. All the work and energy to keep you. So it was a certain time when I was doing the strip that I started also doing other gigs. It's like, I've got to do some other things to keep my life going. So I, worked in other areas.
What did you do?
Many things, but I did. It seems like I stayed in publishing for a lot of it. But I also did fashion stuff. And but like I've been at Parents Magazine for 100 years now. I mean, no, it's, I see somebody I used to work with, but for so long, and I'm the research director there. What? How did that happen? And they don't know I'm a cartoonist. They're like, oh, you have such nice handwriting. I was like, thank you. Thanks. So that's how it goes. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I am Denise Slaughter, longtime friend of Barbara's, but I wanted to ask all of you if today's climate, especially, we'll start with the younger generation here, but someone who's using the online medium, and I really think you could go back, Barbara, and do what you do online. There are business models for something like that. My son is making money, and I don't know what in the heck he's doing. I'm off topic. Does today's climate, politics and the vitriol that's on the internet affect or impact, and whether it's on the internet or not, affect or impact the work that you, or in the words, the pictures that you want to draw and what you want to say? Does it diminish it or does it fire you up?
I think that it totally has, and I think that there's this...
Fired you up.
Well, I think that it has impacted, for sure. Like, I think that now illustrators, especially because you're responding in real time, and it feels like almost discordant to then post a nice picture of a flower when a school shooting has happened, right? So like, I think that because illustrators and cartoonists are so much in dialogue with their audience, it's a very intimate relationship. Like, in a weird way, you're kind of, it can be tough because you end up being like, you feel like you're entertaining for free, or you're like some sort of like online buddy to like 30,000 people or whatever. So I think that now, because a lot of the people that have really infused this new energy into illustration are younger and more political and more diverse, I think there is a demand to question and comment, and it doesn't exist in a vacuum. And I think that increasingly it feels very out of touch if somebody thinks like their work is not connected to the world and it doesn't respond to the world. And I think some of that is the current fashion of thinking as well, but I kind of agree, you know what I mean? It doesn't exist in a vacuum, and if you don't respond, that means that you're privileged enough to not have to respond, so yeah.
Or maybe you just want to be a little more thoughtful before you respond.
Yeah.
That would be a novel.
Yeah.
The whole world.
We have time for one more question. We've got a gentleman here.
Sorry. Hi. So there's some really great hashtags trending on Twitter right now for women in illustration and kidlit women. And part of that is also a big conversation about you know, the kidlit industry is, there's a lot of women working in that industry, right, and even at very, very high levels, but there's still some inequality in terms of the awards, especially on the illustration side. And I'm just wondering if you have any particular thoughts about that conversation, and just to make sure people know about those hashtags, because there's a lot of great stuff being promoted. Kidlit women and women in illustration.
Yeah, I mean, I have a new picture book out, so I'm like sort of thinking about this and running in that circle a lot right now. And it's, again, like I sort of said at the beginning, it's fascinating because it's a matriarchy in some ways, but some of those persistent problems exist when power starts like coming into it. For example, I am super interested to know that, you know, a lot of young, hot, attractive men they are perceived to get ahead in this way, and you're just like, that's so disappointing that that is just a flip of like this power thing. But it's, again, a lot of it's tied into any other industry, like of Me Too. You know, it's like Kidlit's having this Me Too moment, and people are somehow shocked. But it's an industry. It's money. It's power. It's influence. It's fame, all these things, and once you put that into the mix, it's like all that, those patterns just recur. But I don't know. It's I think that sometimes this is a very like nebulous industry. It's like how do you become popular? How do you get a book deal? How do you become booked to do speaking? Where do you get invited? All this becomes this like, and it's like there's a lot of socializing, and there's a lot of, you know, that's how the industry of publishing kind of works, and that can favor certain types of people. And then, and it all gets like kind of gray zoned, and there's a lot of gray zone in a lot of publishing. Maybe that's all industry, but that gray zone can be really frustrating because you have to be able to navigate it to thrive, and then, but also to stay sane. So.
I was going to say hashtags are great. It's a great way to find stuff if you're looking on the web or on social media, but in a way, it's endemic of where we are right now politically. It's this burgeoning industry of recognizing women in a way, if you know what I mean. It's like a thing to do, and I hope that we get past that we survive this trend. I don't want to be a trend. I want to be just part of the whole. And so the hashtagging is great if you want to sense the community, right? Because you can see how many other people are using that same hashtag. It's a way to connect in with certain very specific topics, whether it's children's literature or generally women in illustration. They're kind of two different things. But I just have this great hope for a future that doesn't need a hashtag like that for it to be vital.
Well, I think the Kidlit women in particular is a response to some of the recent Me Too stuff, hashtag Me Too stuff. I do think it also does serve as like an educational tool for people that are starting out and they don't know the way that it works, and now they're quickly learning. And so maybe that's good in that it helps people prevent falling into these traps or these bad situations before their career is at that point. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's terrific. I mean, over 100, this sort of is a good ending point, I think, perhaps. From hashtags to, you know, over 100 years ago, Cecilia Beau dreamed of a time when the notion of women in art would become as strange as mentioning men in art. So we're moving toward that.
So how about we all agree today? It's been a terrific panel, and we have been privileged to hear we've been privileged to hear from terrific artists, terrific illustrators, terrific cartoonists, period. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to call on some of my colleagues from the Prints and Photographs Division as you head out the door in groups. If you do have time to go to the Graphics Arts Gallery and see some of the original artwork, it's a fantastic experience, and conveniently located next to the library's gift shop, filled with souvenirs, but most specifically the book, Drawn to Purpose. Thank you for your time today.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.